Good. Good morning, Chris. Welcome to the Wandering Founder podcast. How are you, man?
What's the name of my book?
The Wandering Founder.
The Wandering Founder podcast. I just got up to close the door. Got a sicko kid upstairs. He's probably going to murder me for being loud and obnoxious. How are you, Anthony? Missed you yesterday. How are things?
Speaking of sick, I was just at the doctor. He told me I have something called Tom Jones syndrome.
That could be serious. What's Tom Jones syndrome?
Well, I asked him if it was common, and he said it's not unusual. So I'm not that worried about it.
There's like 4 people that are now in their mind going, what else knows? Well, it's funny. It's because Anthony, last week did a little bit of golfing,
You golf?
Yeah. Love the golf. I always carry an extra pair of socks with me. You know why?
I'm going to skip the jokes that are going through my head. No, I don't know why, Chris. Why do you carry extra socks with you?
In case I get a hole in one. What if the oldest tech stack choices become your strongest competitive advantage, Anthony? Shocking stat. According to Gartner's 2023 CIO survey, enterprises waste 38% of their IT budget on redundant or underutilized software license. I think that's true in my family as well. We have redundant and underutilized software license. Maybe like for
my wife. I think my wife calls me redundant and underutilized. I think that's my nickname in the house.
That's the name of your podcast. It's great. Shopify Toby's Lutke discovered that sticking with Ruby on Rails when competitors chase newer frameworks saved years of migration pain. His contrarian bet on proven, boring technology became the foundation for scaling a multi-billion-dollar commerce platform without architectural rewrites. Today on How to Founder, we're talking about future-proofing your tech stack through strategic technology choices. I am your host, Chris Franks. With me is the typing Mr. Anthony Franco. Why do you have the loudest keyboard of all time?
You can hear that?
Absolutely. I can actually hear what you wrote, but I'm not going to tell the group. It's just rude. That's terrible. Today we are joined by Mr. Lucas Erb, the very patient Mr. Lucas Erb. Erb? Did I say it right? I probably should have asked that before I came on stage, but that's pretty good. Founder of AIexperts.com helps small businesses leverage AI without the hype. Is it possible to use AI without hype? I don't think it's actually possible, but you can do it. A former software engineer.
I'm asking ChatGPT right now.
What is hype? Fortune 500 CTOs at Deloitte. A former software engineer who advised Fortune 500 CTOs at Deloitte. Lucas champions practical automation that respects human judgment over flashy tools that create chaos. Lucas, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Who had the better dad joke? I'm just putting you on the spot right now.
Oh my goodness. I like the one with the socks. I was just golfing the other day here, and I live in Manhattan, and I'm not a golfer either. It sounds like maybe we're in the same camp there.
If you were a golfer, you would like my joke better.
Oh, all right. So first question, Lucas, tell us the world that I think both Anthony came up in. If you weren't on that latest software stack, if you weren't switching over to whatever the newest version of stack was, you couldn't recruit the best software engineers. They didn't want to work on it. It wasn't cool. Why is chasing these software platforms? Why is it a bad idea? Or is it a bad idea? Should I continue to chase these software platforms?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question. Practically speaking, right? If you're making the decision on something new to purchase or acquire for your business, I think fundamentally everybody's making these build versus buy decisions constantly, right? It's like there's something existing in the market, which someone has already built, and there's something else that's brand new, which I could, perhaps go and build myself and customize and make it work for my business. And there's a huge, I mean, I just think in consulting, we use buzzwords all the time to describe things that are otherwise very simple concepts. So I'll share one right now. One of those big buzzwords is change management, transformation management, right? And it's like, we're talking about how businesses are machines full of human beings. And human beings, we don't change on a dime, right? We like to learn gradually, and we like to be sort of like that frog that's inside a pot of water. The dial has to be turned up gradually and not instantly all at once, or else people freak out. And so I think when you're managing change, managing, something like AI, which is the mother of all change agents in the world today, you have to systematically and gradually share with your industry or with your company what's going on, and you have to adopt things gradually as well. Because, frankly, if you try to go and you buy 10 new software tools all at once, most of them will go underutilized and not have the ROI that you're looking for.
I think, first of all, I love the fact that you actually define change management for me, because up until that moment, I was like, I have no idea what that means. We're managing, it's change. Anyway, didn't ever really get that depth. I think that even to frame this conversation a little bit more, and I think even to frame it up in this thing that we call artificial intelligence, and Anthony, you know quite a bit about this as well, which is, we are now in this incredible moment in time where I believe that AI is going to change every single part of business. I can't think of a single part that AI cannot affect in some possible way. But that can be incredibly scary, right? That can be an incredibly frightening thing, and it's particularly in the IT side of business. You can start to be overwhelmed by all these things. Lucas, and then I'll hand it to you, Anthony. How should I, as a founder, how should I start thinking about, even if I'm not an AI forward company, how should I start thinking about how AI plays a role in even just the operations of my company?
So I work with a lot of small and mid-sized businesses, which means, founders, which means people who have been running their own practice for 20 years. It means family offices, right? For these folks, rarely should you be making the decision of, like, AI is this shiny new thing. Let's go and let's build a custom brand new platform that exists with all of our best practices and takes 6 months before we can roll it out and test it. The industry is moving so fast. These AI algorithms, right? The foundational models that are being built into ChatGPT, built into Anthropic's Claude, built into Copilot by Microsoft. These foundation models are accelerating and advancing and changing rapidly. So I would say leave it to the startups with the venture capital budgets and the big data centers somewhere to worry about making those work for your specific use case, and then focus in specifically on how you can take what you're already doing and just get to that next rung of the ladder today. And so for most people, it's interesting, right? Like, we do at AIexperts.com, we will do implementation, but we'll also do just sort of advisory and training, right? And the training or the upskilling, we call it superhumans, making people, work better alongside AI. That is, often the only thing that the organization needs to get to the next rung of productivity. Like, we're talking 20, 30% productivity improvements just because your entire workforce is now using ChatGPT as, a saved browser tab on your desktop, as a daily, interactive experience. It's a tool that's already been built, that's getting better day by day. You might have seen just yesterday, there's some new announcements for OpenAI. It's getting better day by day, and folks just need to leverage it better. And it's not just ChatGPT, right? There's all these other opportunities in the market. But the point I'm making is, you may not need to go and invent your own thing. It might actually be a waste of your time and energy.
So I want to hand that to you, Anthony, because this is your wheelhouse, right? With the work that you've been doing, I think it's really part of this conversation. But there's also, I want you also to address one other thing, which is this idea that I work in an environment with sensitive information, maybe not customer information, but I work where I don't really want to share my information out into the world. I know that there's a lot of people that are concerned. If Lucas is saying, hey, go grab ChatGPT or Claude off the shelf, we can teach you how to use it. Is my information then going to start showing up in Claude or ChatGPT?
Yeah, I could share
Maybe.
some quick thoughts here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, the
Sorry,
answer
Anthony,
is
I didn't mean to interject.
Go ahead, Lucas.
Sorry, I was just going to say probably the same thing you're about to say, right? Which is these model providers, if you're running on the free tier, then sort of by default, most of them are collecting that information and using it to improve their model. And so what you want to be doing is you want to be operating on the enterprise tier, and then you want to be flagging certain parameters that decline the ability for the model to train on your data. And those exist within the menus, within the licensing that you get with those providers. But of course, there are people that are a lot more cautious about this. Think HFT firms or private equity firms that have very sensitive data, or think government agencies, which absolutely under no jurisdiction should we allow that data to leak out to another entity. For these use cases, people are isolating and running their own custom AI agents. But for the vast majority of companies, especially small founders, I just don't think that's a reasonable bet to be making unless you don't trust Google with your data, don't trust Microsoft with your data, right? All of these large entities that we're already trusting with our information.
Yeah, I think that the age of proprietary information is dead anyway. So if you are some of the entities that Lucas mentioned, I totally agree that you need to take security exceptionally serious. If you're a startup building something, somebody else can build it. Like there's nothing unique and relevant you're bringing to the table. No, there's no there's nothing that you can keep out of an LLM that it doesn't already know anyway. It already has the entire documented knowledge of human history in it now. Like, you're not going to invent something it hasn't heard of. So worrying about there's a lot. Let me put it a different way. There's a lot more things to worry about with AI than whether or not OpenAI is going to steal your startup idea. That's the least of your worries.
Right.
I feel like they come up with better startup ideas than I do anyway. I'm like, what do you think about this startup idea? They're like, that's great, but here's 5 better. Damn it.
Yeah. The likelihood is that ChatGPT is going to give you a better startup idea than what's in your head right now.
There you go.
Sad. Also, I do appreciate you shouting out our largest segment of audience here on How to Founder, which is government security people, NSA. We're huge in the FBI.
Right.
Huge in the FBI. It's great. All right, so I want to the original purpose of the conversation is to talk about legacy technology and how we approach legacy technology and when we migrate it. But I do think that it's impossible to have that conversation in 2025 and beyond without having AI as a parallel to that. And so I want to start with a question from you, Lucas, which is, I wrote my first software application after being a CEO and founder of technology startups for, 2 decades. I wrote my first application, last year. We're now in this world where vibe coding and the ability to write these small, lightweight, sometimes not scalable, but we can write these applications. It's now available to me. And when it's available to me, that's a scary thing. It means it's going to be available to Anthony soon. He's going to be able to figure that same thing out. Another 2 to 3 years, maybe, probably. But the idea there is that now I think that if you're a CTO of a startup, or if you're trying to understand what tech stack to choose or whether to migrate or what to build your application on, you now have this level of complexity of whereby your business or marketing or sales related founder is now going out and writing a feature over the weekend doing vibe coding. First of all, Before we do that, just explain a little bit about what vibe coding is, what this idea is, and then talk about how it relates now to the decisions you have to make for IT infrastructure.
Wow. I mean, this is the mother of all questions, right? This is what the entire industry is.
How much
They
time
don't
do you
pay me
have?
for my good looks, Lucas.
Some of us have been skating by on those for a while.
Yeah, well, they don't pay me at all.
Your paycheck,
so.
Chris, your paycheck is commiserate with your looks, though.
Yeah, exactly.
So I will share. I mean, when we're talking about AI for code, what's happened in a span of 2 to 3 short years is nothing short of astounding, right? I mean, programming was, for me, it was my own professional moat. I went to undergrad for 4 years to learn how to think like a computer. I learned exactly how the mind of a computer works, how the ones and zeros switch inside of a computer, creating all kinds of logical circuits, which then, turn into levels of abstraction, which can be writing code and solving for all these unique problems in computation. And so did many, many, many people who are professionally employed doing just that at, incredible salaries, right? I'll just,
Huge
I'm not bragging about
salaries.
myself, huge
Yeah.
salaries. And this job now is absolutely, it's one of the first jobs that AI is eating into and replacing. And I'll share a quick example, right? One is there's like all these now vibe coding apps that allow you to create with just natural language, meaning you just type text on screen. They allow you to create without ever looking at the code front end websites. So think Vercel, V0, or Lovable, or Replit, right? These different applications
Or
that you
Cursor,
might have
yeah,
heard of, or Cursor.
or Cloud Code, or
We could go all
Copilot,
day.
or yeah.
We could go all day. And these apps are incredibly good, right? They remove all of the problem of knowing what's going on in the code and just show you the end result. They show you what the demo is that's been created. So much so that there's this 8-year-old girl that went viral on Twitter earlier this year because she learned to vibe code her ideal dream Harry Potter app and did it in a day. And truly, what she did in a day with no undergrad experience is what I spent 4 years learning how to do. Right?
And that's can be challenging for somebody that got a computer science degree. It can be a little bit frustrating at times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also what my peers who are working at Meta, who are working at, we're talking the best companies in the Valley, Google, that are working at Microsoft, what they will tell you is software engineering is still incredibly complex. And it's not the sort of thing that you can just right now entirely trust AI. We might get there soon, but you can't just entirely trust AI with your code base. Quick example, Replit, that company I just mentioned, a really good, highly technical company. They have trusted AI with their code base. Recently, there was this story that made the news where AI deleted their entire code base.
Yeah,
They have, different environments and they have backups, so they just quickly restored it. It wasn't like a major outage, but the fact that AI has the ability to RM-RF their entire data system, and then they have to back it up is scary and obviously something to be learned from. And I'll also share, I mean, this is just one of the most beautiful stories about tech innovation that I think everyone should know. Super briefly, Google, when they first started, the web was like, we're talking 2.5 million websites, right? We're talking indexing the internet was not a big deal. We're talking like 98 era of the internet, right? And indexing the internet was still a non-trivial problem. They had to spin up data centers and do all this stuff physically that today is just abstracted away by AWS or Microsoft. All these other companies have solved these problems for us as entrepreneurs. But when they built this early indexer for the internet, there was this moment where all of the world's technology was incapable of keeping up with the pace of new web pages that were created online. And they reached this tipping point sometime in like the mid 2000s, early to mid 2000s, where their Google indexer started to fail. It was like a one, hit enter and run, and it just crawled the whole internet, indexed everything, and came back with a new refreshed Google search. And Google search was stale for like 6 months while they tried to solve this problem. It kept failing because the data was too big. And so Google invented this like very complex MapReduce algorithm, this algorithm that essentially made it possible to take bits of the internet, split it across a whole bunch of different computers, and solve for an impossible computation problem that had never been solved before. PhD level research and science went into making Google simply run on the size of the internet as we know it today. And so I think when we're talking about true problems in information and in computer science, those true problems are always going to be solved by a matching of human researchers and AI. And right now, that's what we're seeing, right? Where we're talking about these big companies or these startups that are really tackling a niche problem well. they're baking and codifying best practice. They are taking best practice from multiple different customers and complex engineering challenges, solving for them and making it easier for everyone in the world. That way you don't have to go do it yourself. And so while coding is a lot easier today than it ever was before, and you should absolutely use it as an MVP development and like a means of getting work done faster, I just think there's a non-trivial element that needs to be addressed about all the best practices already baked into these tools that are available to us today.
And I mean, I hear you, which is also scalability. Anthony, I want you to answer the same question, but I also want you to address it from a founder perspective. I'm starting a new company today. I don't think we've talked about this ever. Should I start with going out and talking to, the Chris Martinez's of the world, my buddies that are more technical, or should I just go and vibe code an MVP and go talk to people? I mean, I think it's probably the right starting approach, but at what point in time then do I cross this piece where it's like I really need to actually think about the scalability of the technology?
I'm gonna walk through that logic tree, Chris. So what do we tell founders all the time to do first?
Go talk
we
to
tell
humans.
we tell them to talk to humans. But more importantly, is it build the product or go see if you can sell it?
Yeah, actually go try
Go
to
see
sell
if
it.
you can sell it.
Yeah.
Right? So what does AI give us as founders? AI gives us the ability to make something that we can sell even though it's wholly imperfect. So instead of selling vaporware, which a lot of the startups actually did for quite a while.
I was going to say that was my middle name.
That was the business model. Sell something you don't have. Now you can sell something that actually kind of works and iterate on it kind of fast and try out a ton of different ideas very quickly. So AI should, for founders, dramatically increase time to market and figuring out product market fit. And you should also, if you're starting to gain traction on something that has product market fit, now you need to talk to some people that really know what the hell they're doing. I mean, how many websites, I can't remember the name of it, starts with TEA something. Like it was this, it was that website that allowed women to like trash the men that they dated. Remember that site? What was that site? I can't remember the name of it. But essentially it was like a social media network for women to basically throw the men that they dated under the bus. And they were ruining men's reputations until one of the men who was technically savvy found out that the website was vibe coded and completely exposed their entire user set's PII, personally identifiable information. And he went out and published all of the women's information about who they are, where they are. It de-anonymized everything. And it tanked the company immediately just because they didn't have everybody's information was a text file sitting on their web server. So yes, use AI to get to market, but you have to take the tech seriously once you're in market.
All right, so I want to make fun of you for bringing up a website about dating and how men are jerks, but I'm going to move on and ask
I said no such thing.
Question. Yeah, so the problem I think that it starts to exist, Lucas, and this is again we're straying off the original topic, but I think it's important. Is when I was in a services business, I could walk in and say, hey, here's what I do. And they go, I don't like that. But if you did this, I'd hire you, and go, congratulations. This is now.
I do that now.
I do that now. That is now part of my service offering, right?
So funny you mentioned that. We actually are just sorry.
Right. And I'll send you the deck of our, so that same approach is now available to us in technology, even in this world of rapid iteration, et cetera. The problem is, again, you bang up against this concept of scalability very, very fast, because in software, consistency matters quite a bit. Creating a separate software system, at least at the moment, even though I think it's going to be there in the next 5 years or so, for every individual user is a non-starter for most technical companies. How do I, as a founder, think about that? How do I start to approach this thing of saying, hey, if I can do anything, I shouldn't though, because I need to figure out what I'm actually building that'll help the most people.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So focusing first on the problem and worrying last about the technology, right? The technology, I think oftentimes, especially in a gold rush like AI, we are holding this AI hammer and we're looking for a bunch of nails to whack with it, right? And that's why you find people running around and smacking things that aren't nails too, right? You're running around through the valley and there are all these AI startups that are AI this and AI that. And it's clear this is not a job site where nails are being hit. You're just over there smacking the hammer on the cement. What are you doing? Like that's not productive. And I think, frankly, I think what you said, both of you said roughly 15 minutes ago, is we need to focus first on the customer, talking to them, learning what they need. We have a framework at AI Experts that I'll just kind of pair to that. The idea is everybody should be with AI. They are the own subject matter experts on their workflow, on their process. I'll give you an example, right? Like if I was going to right now recount to you what I did yesterday, I could probably tell you in 5 to 10 minute increments what my work was. I would say, I clicked on this application, I did that, then I sent an email to that person, then I had a phone call with this person. This was my work day. Now, Chris, if you told me, Lucas, you're an AI expert, I need some help with AI. Tell me, what did I do yesterday and what could AI help with? I'm blank. Of course I'm dumbfounded. I wasn't standing over your shoulder, Chris. I have no idea what you did yesterday. You are the subject matter expert on your own workflow. And pairing that with your own rapid experimentation with AI is where you're going to find the most opportunity. Frankly, anything that ChatGPT can do for you in your own workflow of copy pasting into that window there and building a great prompt is something then that you could go and build an automated script to solve for. If you find yourself doing the same prompt day in and day out, then maybe it needs to be a GPT, an agent, or just an automated process that runs on its own in your business. But you don't get there until you do it manually a few times, right? And so I think training folks, back to that framework I mentioned, we call it 3 E's, training folks to experiment, explain, and then evaluate, and keep that in an iterative loop, like an agile loop, right? Where first you're experimenting with AI and using these tools, then you're explaining what it is that happened, right? You're making sure that the AI is done in a glass box so you can see what the steps are of the model thinking through your problem and solving it accurately. And then, of course, you're evaluating it and actually having a metric that you're trying to score. Did this improve on our time to resolve something for a customer? Did this improve on the process that I had before where I was spending 5 hours to do this and now I'm spending 3 or I'm spending 1? And so I think just finding those opportunities then becomes the opportunity for the entire team, not just some tech person, the entire team, to seek out AI opportunity and seek out, business, as you both have mentioned in startups.
Anthony, I feel like I've heard this coming out of your mouth almost verbatim. I mean, thoughts?
Yeah, there's so much here to uncover. So what I'm trying to do is not veer off topic, which is, legacy tech beats shiny new tools. And I don't know if I even believe the topic anymore. The truth is that I'm not a futurist, but my fundamental belief is legacy software is dead. It's just dead. The thing that's going to matter is compute power. It's going to be electricity and compute. And that's because right now I need a CRM because I need a way to manage my contacts in a way that's right for my business. And I have to kind of learn the CRM. I have to conform to how the CRM wants me to conform to. So Salesforce, you name the CRM, I have to conform to it. And in reality, if I just can write my own bespoke app to do that, why would I pay $500 a month for Salesforce when I can spend $20 a month and own the tech stack myself? I struggle with that. And and you don't have to be technical. So I think the big coming tsunami, and I've talked about this in a couple of different conferences, isn't startups figuring out how to use AI and leverage it. It's the consumerization of AI, meaning companies are going to have to figure out a way to combat or to deal with or to serve their customers using AI. So Do Not Pay is a great example of that, where I can have Do Not Pay start a chat conversation with Comcast to lower my bill. Now imagine that happening at scale. Companies are not prepared for this. I think the real opportunity in AI is exactly what you're doing, Lucas, which is helping businesses understand how to leverage and operationalize AI, instead of startups trying to figure out the next thing that's going to be built that they can charge a monthly fee for, because that company is going to be non-existent in 5 years, because it'll just be a feature that OpenAI launches with, or it'll be something that I can trivially build using my own agentic software that I pay $20 a month for. So I really think what we're going to see is panic building in AI from companies trying to deal with the consumers using AI against them.
So I'm going to try to bring this back to some kind of at least parallel to the original conversation.
Yeah.
Which is, initially we started this conversation with like, hey, legacy tech, sometimes it gets deprecated. And now with AI, really, it's a harder conversation to have, because now if it's not closely integrated with AI, it's harder to even have that conversation. Here's my question for you, Lucas, and it's a big one. We've had a few big questions. Is AI the platform now? In other words, I'm not even like, there's a few people that understand how to write and actually code AI applications, and we're talking the ChatGPT, the open AIs of the world, and the rest of us are just going to use Claude or ChatGPT in an agent environment, Anthony, like you've been preaching, to just do whatever's next. Is AI the new tech stack?
Right. Well, one thing, right, that's for certain is context switching between 7 different applications that you have to learn how to use each one is not a fun way to work. Like, we're all in this knowledge workflow economy. Most of us, I will say, but of course not by and large the whole economy. Most of us are knowledge workers, and we deal in information, and we send texts and emails all day, and we're in Slack, and we're in Teams, and we're on meetings. All of that knowledge work, is fundamentally something that can be tied under that same ribbon of a chat interface or a voice interface, right? It might get better and more elegant over time, but the more those applications are all ported into a ChatGPT or an Anthropic Claude or a Copilot, the less you're going to want to personally log into that other application, like your CRM. If I can ask my chat window, hey, what's going on in Salesforce, prepare a list of 3 contacts I need to send an email to, and then send that email, suddenly I don't need to go to my email provider Outlook, nor do I need to go to my CRM provider Salesforce. Those windows disappear, and I just become, the agent manager from my little command terminal. And that's a better way to work, right? You're streamlining all this context switching. And so I do think perhaps the future looks a little bit more like Iron Man Jarvis, right? And I'll give you another AI example. Perhaps some of you are thinking AI today is a little bit more like C-3PO. It's giving me false information. It's feeding it to me at the wrong moment. I don't know if you guys remember Star Wars, but there's this one scene where C-3PO
Never tell me the odds.
That's it. C-3PO is in the cockpit and feeds the odds to Han Solo in the least opportune moment, right? He's basically saying, you're all going to die. And that is not a helpful AI. That is not what you want AI to do. I think AI today is quickly becoming, and in a pace that most of us are too slow to understand, more like Jarvis, where Iron Man is up there flying around at high speed. There's a missile coming in behind him. And Jarvis says, would you like me to deploy flares? And does it. and is actively protecting him. Then he's back in the garage, in the workshop, and he's asking Jarvis to expand and contract and manipulate data for him in real time so that he can develop the next suit. And I think that workflow, right, that's our future.
I've been told I look a lot like early Harrison Ford in Han Solo.
Yeah,
that's truth. That's truth.
Quite a bit.
You look more like the guy that Indiana Jones punched into the big bomber with the propellers.
That just hurts right in my soul. As Anthony, as you said, it hurts my feeling. My one feeling. All right. Amazing conversation. It's going to be an interesting speed round. Let's get to it. I've been updating our speed round questions as we go based on the changing nature of the topic here. But are you ready, Lucas, for the speed round?
Yes.
All right. Legacy system runs fine, but it's difficult to integrate with AI code. Migrate now or wait for failure?
Excuse me, wait for failure. Legacy system works fine.
Yeah, it works fine, but I can't put AI code into it. Should I sit there or should I wait for it to really start to fail when I try to jam AI code in there?
My goodness. I think that AI is fantastic for our ability now to refactor, right? It's programming languages, switching from one to the other is sort of now a trivial problem as long as you don't have a massive code base. And so I would say maybe start implementing new things in whatever code base you want and port them over with a webhook or an API or something simple that doesn't disrupt what's already working. And then when the time is right, you can always worry about that later on. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, so that was the equivalent, Anthony, of that was a dumb question. Start with vibe coding or start with a stable infrastructure?
Start with vibe coding.
Build your own agents or rely on out-of-the-box agents and GPTs?
That is too nuanced. There are so many questions to ask there. I would say always start, though, with not an agent, but just a ChatGPT window.
I like it. Team wants to experiment with bleeding edge AI tools. Sandbox freedom or standardization mandate?
Standardization mandate. Go for it.
I like it. Standardization mandate. Really very good conversation today. A little bit off the topic, but I thought it was good. Anthony, what'd you learn?
I learned absolutely nothing. I'm more confused now than I was going into it, which is not unusual. That was a reference back to my Tom Jones joke. I think one of the things that Lucas said that I wrote down is this build versus buy, and what I wrote is that's essentially a technical versus non-technical co-founder, and we no longer have to make that choice, build versus buy. We can all build, and that really changes up the game quite dramatically. I also wrote down that I think you have to, as a co-founder, technical or not, you have to start vibe coding now. So your deep expertise plus AI is now your competitive advantage, not the tech stack that you build, not the IP that you create. It's your expertise. A lawyer versus an AI, the AI may win. A lawyer who knows and leverages AI, they're going to win every time. So I think that combination of your deep knowledge, you need to be good in something, and if you add AI to it, you're going to kick everybody else's behind in whatever you decide to do. I do think, therefore, the tech startup may be dead in 5 years, and legacy is going to be dead in 7.
That's just great that we started a podcast called How to Founder. That's great, Anthony.
I want to give
doom and gloom.
The quickest practical tip on what you said there, Anthony, because I totally agree, is if you're capable, I would say start with Claude Code, because Claude right now, though that is the terminal interface, and so it looks maybe daunting for someone who's never coded, Claude Code is abstracting away the problem of ever actually having to look at that code base and giving you just what it should be, that chat window to begin to code and develop. And that chat window, I think, will become sort of the de facto standard for how we do all knowledge work over enough time. Right now, it's just code, but someday you might write an entire book, chapter by chapter, developing in a terminal like that, and having it then create the files for you and index all of the things. And so what we're seeing with code might very well be the workflow of the future. And I'll also share Claude Code, being sort of an enthusiast on the benchmarks for AI models. Anthropic has been and continues to be the best on these SWE bench tests. It's a real test on an AI's ability to solve coding challenges. And that test, they just released a new model which scored the highest that's ever been scored on this test, and they continue to push that benchmark forward.
I would agree. And if I use Cursor because I refuse to write in terminal. so you can use Claude in Cursor, but I totally agree. Like something like that, something that Claude Code can be really intimidating, especially for somebody that's coming from ChatGPT. But I can't argue with the fact that it writes the best code.
Deep dive resources. I'm going to say YouTube, and just ask YouTube on how to do Claude coding, etc. It really is remarkable. That's how I learned pretty much everything that Anthony hasn't taught me about AI. I just went to YouTube.
Lucas, what's a good book what's a good book that you can refer us to on this? And then also, where can we learn more about you?
Oh, so many good books. Hold on, let me get one. I like props. So there is.
While he's getting that, I'm gonna do Age of Invisible Machines by Rob Wilson and Josh Tyson. That's a great AI book. Go ahead, Lucas.
So this one here, Ray Kurzweil, he's a futurist, and he has consistently predicted many of the technology moments that we've seen in years past. And in particular, he has a book about singularity, this topic of when AI crosses the threshold of human knowledge and begins to develop itself further and further. I think it's worth really understanding where all of this is headed on the longer horizon.
I dig it. I was going to give a shout out to Rob Wilson and the Age of Invisible Machines.
Oh,
stepped on me.
Look at that. Two endorsements.
Fine. No, it's great, Anthony. I appreciate that. All right. So all that being said, really what we're going to go do is visit your website, Lucas. Where can we learn more about you? Where can we connect? Where can we get your valuable resources to help guide us through this confusing time?
I appreciate it so much. Yep, you can go to aiexperts.com. It's spelled just the way it sounds, nothing fancy. We have our model for how we help business on there. And we also have a free resource on automation. If you're curious about how that works and what businesses are doing today, we've surveyed and interviewed a whole bunch of small to mid-sized founders and CEOs to understand what they're working with and practical value from automation. And I would really love to encourage folks to connect with me on LinkedIn. I am pretty responsive on messages there. So if you need anything, just send a message.
Love it. Terrific conversation. It's one of the good ones when we sort of wandered and found a better topic. I'm going to say, Anthony, before you make everybody that is trying to start a technology company cry, I would also say it's the best time ever in human history to start a technology company, because very few barriers to entry other than your creativity and passion and expertise in solving a problem. Anthony, get us out of here. What do we got coming up?
Get us out. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please be sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify channels. If you like the episode, we really could use a review. So please do that on any of those channels or all of them. It's fine if you leave a review on all of the channels.
That would be okay.
Especially if you liked us. You are the pioneer of economic prosperity, and we're all just so grateful to be there along the way with you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.